All the odds are against me. I got to prove something. I had no direction in my life. I got kicked out of 3 universities. It was about 1:30 at night from a party. I shouldn't be driving. I was high. I was high as fuck, man. And I turned around and I hit a guy on a motorbike. And he fucking flew 30 meters. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. You know, you can't like fall back into the trap and start being a dickhead. I'm betting my fucking odds on plan A. Bro.
Yeah.
So if this shit doesn't work, I got to die. I want to become a professional bodybuilder. What's the point of living? I don't want to be fucking ordinary. I don't want to be like every other motherfucker.
You know, this might be my most controversial opinion I've given to date. No one cares. It's not the number one podcast. Keep saying we're on a mission. You only got 60 views in 2 days. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Hemp Canned Labs, a proud sponsor of Luca's podcast. These guys have an entire range of CBD oils, gummies, and vapes for you smokers out there that specifically is designed to provide you with high quality CBD. So whether you're trying to deal with stress, anxiety, muscle recovery, or you just enjoy that relaxation effect that comes with CBD. I use it personally before every podcast, and if you use promo code LUCA, you're gonna get 15% off your next purchase. Bang, welcome back to the number one podcast in the world. Thank you guys so much for smashing the subscribe button. If you haven't done so already, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. We are the fastest growing YouTube channel. We have the best podcast guests in the world. I mean, we have Anthony Isaac today. Who else has Anthony Isaac? Literally no one, because it's his first podcast ever. So please, baby. 100%, bro. I'm so glad that you're here. And much. Let the people know what they should be doing right now, right this second.
Yeah, right this second. If you're not on your hadaf, if you're not on your purpose, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You got to start doing it. So
100%, but you should also smash the subscribe button.
That is true as well. Smash the subscribe button and the like button, because Luke is a fucking G, man.
Thank you, bro. So for people who aren't aware what you are, what you do, what your story is, how would you best describe it in like an elevator pitch?
Great question. Pretty much my story is I'm just an ordinary bloke who felt like he was a bit special and he wanted to do something with his life. And he never really found his true passion until he started dwelling in the bodybuilding industry. Pretty much just wanted to make something out of myself. I wanted to focus on something, wanted to be, you know, create something for myself, for my family, and make a legacy pretty much. That's my idea.
Yeah. Were you always like compelled towards the gym? Like were you always drawn, you know, was the gym like a temple for you? Were you always kind of like, I need to go to the gym today? Was that something that you always felt compelled to do, or was that something that you discovered along the way? Yeah, no, not necessarily, to be honest.
Going to the gym was very foreign for me. I used to play a little bit of rugby when I was younger, so I was always into the activity side of things. Played rugby league for a little bit, then played rugby union during high school. And then after that, I was always fond of bodybuilders.
Were you competitive when you were playing footy?
I would say I was competitive.
Yeah.
I wasn't over the top. I just did it for fun. I didn't really have much knowledge about it. My parents weren't even approving of me playing footy.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, coming from a traditional Egyptian family, they do care a little bit more about the studious sides of things. So
I see.
To study more, you know, get good grades.
Don't hit your head against like big fob guys.
Correct. And that's exactly what I did. I said, I want all the smoke, baby. So I went hard, man. I was like, fobs, give them to me, bar.
Yeah.
But no, so they weren't really approving of me playing footy. However, I was like to them, you know what? I'm gonna do me. So I always felt like I was a bit different. I always wanted to rebel, but not in a bad way. In a way where I wanted to succeed in anything that I pursued. You know.
Yeah, because like I think everyone growing up has that rebellious stage of their life, right? Like where anything that your parents tell you to do, you just want to do the opposite.
Correct.
Like, you know, you want me to become a mathematician? Well, I'm going to study English really hard.
Pretty much.
If you want me to be a really good student, I'm going to be a super good athlete. Like everyone goes through that period of time where whatever your parents tell you is cool, you just want to do the opposite of that. So it makes sense. It makes sense that you would try and push forward in the athletics and you'd push forward in the footy.
Yep.
Was there any, because I find that with athletes in particular, you generally find this like undertone of, I'm going to be a competitor. I'm going to be the best at what I'm doing. I have to win no matter what. You know, Michael Jordan speaks about that a lot, that if you would verse him in a game of ping pong and he would have to beat you. And if he didn't beat you, he'd have to beat you. He'd have to find a way to beat you.
Correct.
Do you felt like, even though we're not going to the extremes of Michael Jordan because the guy's a fucking sociopath, but do you felt like you had that even in the footy domain, or do you think that came later on with the bodybuilding?
No, I think that one came a little bit later on. I think with footy, I was passionate about it, but I wasn't passionate about it to pursue it as a career. It wasn't, my heart didn't really lie in it. I think I only wanted to play footy just to be accepted within a society or a niche of boys at school.
Yeah, like a community.
Of course, you know,
Yeah.
like anyone, you know, you go to normal like Catholic schools, private schools, and you see boys playing footy and it's like, yeah, I want to be part of that group because they're like the alphas, you know, they're the cool kids. So I just ended up playing it, and then I realized I was pretty good at it. Wasn't good enough to get scouted though. But yeah, so I'd always say that it was a passion, but what came after for me trying to be the best of the best, that came from bodybuilding and from the prep.
So was that kind of like your first introduction to the gym? Because usually when you go play footy, a big component of that is your athleticism. It's your speed, it's your size, it's your agility. It's how quickly can you move in one direction to another? How strong can you be when you're taking on impact? Like, were those years of playing footy your first introduction to the gym, or did you experience something before that?
Nah, you know, we didn't really have much gym sessions playing footy as a
Oh,
kid.
really?
Yeah, we did. Like, we had a couple of days where we'd be in the gym, but mostly was kind of outdoor experiences, outdoor training. Only the gym, I felt that quite maybe after I finished year 12, because I stopped playing footy when I was in year 11. I moved back to an Orthodox school.
Why'd you stop?
Oh, pretty much just to focus on my studies.
Right.
Or at least my dad wanted me to do that. So, yeah. So he wanted me to focus on my studies, and he's like, hey, mate, that's it. Let's hold the footy career for a bit. Year 12, you're going to go and study hard. So I went to a local Orthodox school in Rockdale, and my God, some of these kids, man, they're fucking too smart for their own good.
What's the difference in going to an Orthodox school as opposed to just a general public school?
It's funny because I personally think that a general, you know, public, Catholic or private school, there's more extracurricular activities there. There's more camaraderie with the students, with the teachers. However, in my personal experience at the Orthodox school, I felt it was more focused towards study. Study is a massive thing in the Egyptian community. You know, all the parents want their kids to be doctors, lawyers, pharmacists.
Right.
So I think my parents at that time, they realized that that's what they wanted me to head into, because my sister, she's a pharmacist, great ATAR, went really high. Me, on the other hand, you know, I really didn't care about the study. I just wanted to play footy or do something sporty because I thought that was the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think there's a massive difference in terms of attitudes, ideologies and values, and as well purpose in life. You know, in the Orthodox community, the purpose is, you know, get a stable job, a good paying job, get married, get kids, the kids follow, do the same thing. Whereas I feel like when you go to these other schools where there's a lot of multiculturalism and diversity, you know, the kids have the opportunity to do what they feel like they want to do, and their parents support them. So I think there's a massive difference.
Yeah, I think like there's definitely a case for that where in, you know, the traditional public school route, right, you have almost like a melting pot of different communities, right? You might have a group of Asians, and you might have a group of Muslims, and you might have a group of Italians, you might have a group of South Americans. And I think that's one of the cool things about going to public school. And as someone who's experienced both, so I actually, growing up, I went to 6 different schools.
Yeah.
Throughout
same
my...
here.
Really?
Yeah, same here.
No way.
Actually, primary school and high school, probably about 3 primary schools and about 5 high schools.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know what that experience of like moving around socially.
It's crazy, man. And you feel like, I don't know about you, but in my experience, you feel like I can't get too close with people because I know in about a year or two, I'm probably going to head out and go somewhere else. So but it kind of worked in our favor, I think, because now we're able to talk to many people from different cultures and different nationalities. different backgrounds.
Yeah.
You know, we're not closed off to a little niche or a little fishbowl, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You kind of get caught in these echo chambers, especially if you've known the same people for the last 20 or 30 years. You feel as though it's the same ideas kind of being rotated around again and again. And especially if there's like a religion involved. I've been to secular schools and non-secular schools. So I've been to schools where being a Catholic Christian was the main priority, and those times of devotion and those times of prayer, and you go to meetings. I mean, Sian goes to an Anglican school now, and you know, a good 20% of the calendar year is dedicated to one form of religion, religious studies, something along those lines. And that's really interesting because then everyone is kind of taught the same ethics and morals, and there's a standard that's upheld. Obviously, when you've got a bunch of 16-year-olds running around firing off testosterone and, you know, hungry and sports, and there's ego and there's competition, it's not going to be idealistic. You're not going to have everyone exactly on the same page. But I think if you looked at it from a broader lens and you peeled yourself back a bit, you'd say, oh, okay, this is a group of about 1,000 kids that roughly believe in the same thing. Whereas when you go to a public school, it's not like that at all. In a public school, everyone's kind of like cut off into their little corners and people hang around in their own way. So I imagine your experience would have reflected this, and maybe you can expand on it a bit. But for me, it was like socially navigating every single one of those situations and every single one of those schools was so difficult.
Yes.
Because sometimes you just click with people straight away and it'd be so easy. And then other times you'd be like, I can't connect with anyone here. I don't know what's going on, and I'm just getting shit on by every direction. I feel like I'm alone. And it's so hard to navigate that. But like you said, the benefit in that is you learn so much in how to socially navigate different situations, different groups, different religions, different cultures. Whereas if you just stick in the one school, you're in an echo chamber.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think that going to these different schools, because I went to school in the city, and then I went to school in North Shore, and then I went to school in the area, if you know where the area is. You know,
220, brother.
So I went to school in the area, and then I went to school in the inner west. So I was faced with a lot of different cultural backgrounds. You know, I would say it also changed my perception on different people. So when I was actually up at school in the North Shore, that's when I really developed the whole rugby lifestyle. You know, boys up there, they love surfing, they loved rugby. Then I started feeling my attitudes changed a bit. I started to dress like these guys, you know how white boys dress, you know, the
100%.
And the library bag, they love the library bag.
100%, they've got like the striped guest shirt.
Yeah, the striped guest shirt. I got a photo, I'm going to send you one, you know. And I was a rad dude, like, you know, surf's up dude, you know. And I started becoming that person, right? And then I realized I moved out from that school to the inner west, and, you know, there was a lot of, you know, obviously Greeks, Italians, Lebanese people. And I started becoming more myself back again. So I feel like, yeah, when you go to different types of schools and you meet different types of nationalities and backgrounds, as a kid, you're a sponge. So you shape your views and your ideas based on who you hang around with. But to a benefit, it helped me a lot because I could speak to a white guy, I could speak to an Asian guy, I could speak to a Greek guy, Lebanese guy, an Egyptian person. And then when I came back to my Orthodox school, which is predominantly Egyptians, I felt I was a little bit claustrophobic in a sense where it's just the one culture.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like, where's the Greeks? Where's the Massos? Where's the Lebos? You know?
Yeah.
I didn't feel comfortable, you know, and seeing them during the week and then seeing them at church on the weekend, it's just like, damn, you know? And I feel like a lot of these kids as well, they do tend to go off the rails in a sense where because they're so, how do I say it? Because they're so enclosed in their community, 7 days a week. They're always seeing the same people, whether it's at school, whether it's at church. They feel like they can't talk to other nationalities. So then when they leave school and then they go to university or they go do a trade and they have to deal with people that are from different, you know, walks of life, different backgrounds, they're like, oh my God, I never knew this shit existed.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, it speaks a lot to not only your ability to communicate with other people that share different values and have a different culture to you, but also kind of holds in the prejudices that we hold against different communities, right? You know, I think you're seeing the most exemplified version of that right now in Kanye West. So for people unaware, Kanye West just pretty much went on a tirade saying that Jews control the media and they control the weather and they run all the contracts and they're the reason that the world is the way it is right now. And I find that that's a really interesting take for someone like Kanye to say, considering that he is such an influential and such a provocative and such a, just...
he's game-changing,
He
changed the
is.
course of music in the 21st century.
Absolutely. And, he is such his own wave that for him to kind of succumb to such a simplistic and such a boiled down opinion, a take, I have empathy in the sense that he's probably is going through a bit of a bipolar episode. He probably is going through some kind of break at the moment. He doesn't seem mentally like he's all there. But, I think a lot of us on a subconscious level probably have a little bit of that Kanye in us. We probably look at a certain group and go, oh shit, there's for lack of a better example, there's a bunch of Arabs over there at Fairfield Station. Watch out, hold your bag tight. Something's going to go down. Where they might be the friendliest and nicest people.
Maybe, yeah.
And I think, it's important. Yes, we do need to criticize Kanye for the takes he makes. And yes, we do need to criticize just generalizing whole groups of people and speaking in absolutes, but you also need to recognize there's a little bit of that in you, and there's a little bit of that in everyone.
Correct.
And the earlier you can recognize that, the earlier you can rectify that.
Correct. No, I absolutely agree. I like the issue that you touched on about being simplistic, how Kanye is very simple at the moment. He sees the way whatever he sees, he does.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I like that because I feel like in life, we tend to complicate things when we can just take a simplistic approach to it. Like I can tell you for training, for example, people these days in the gym, especially the young kids, what's optimal, what's not, what's this, what's that. They see people on TikTok or on social media and they want to become optimal.
Yeah.
It's like, brother, you don't even know what the word optimal is. If you really want to make some good progress at the gym, bro, go and do the compounds. Stick to the basics.
Yeah.
Get back to the basics. Understand that there's levels to this shit, and then you can focus on the little finer details. So I think that approach in life is very important. And I think what Kanye is at the moment is Kanye is very, I don't like using the word woke, but he sees the world the way it is. Whether that's his opinion or whether he's influenced by something else, but he sees the world as it is. And he sees the world as pretty much his palette. And he's the painter and he just paints his own picture and he leaves his mark and he signs his mark everywhere. So,
yeah. I think, with him, he doesn't operate on the same frequency as everyone else. He doesn't have conversations with with people the same way you and I are having a conversation right now. You and I, we find our wavelength, we find our flow, and then before you know it, time ticks over and we're having a fun, natural flowing conversation, right? I think with someone like Kanye, he doesn't have a frequency that anyone else can register. He is just all the time so intense, has a million things to say and is spitting all this information at you and all these ideas at you, and nothing's really concurrent. Nothing's really this thought led to that, thought led to that thought. It expands more out like a web and he's just pulling from different directions.
It's as if like his subconscious is speaking directly out to the people.
Yeah.
Whereas his subconscious should be just for himself, and then he should regurgitate what his subconscious is saying in a manner where people can understand it. But I don't think he gives a fuck, to be completely honest.
No, he doesn't give a fuck, and nor should he. Nor should he. He's a fucking... Well, he was a billionaire. Yeah. The guy was a billionaire. He shouldn't give a fuck what anyone thinks about him. Correct. He should go out and say what he really thinks, but he should do it in a way that doesn't isolate a group of people or doesn't hurt a group of people, because that's when I think it really does become problematic and it does become dangerous. I've supported Kanye along his whole career, ups and downs, lefts and rights, and I will continue to do so. But I can't sit back and say and agree with his statements about Jews or his statements about George Floyd.
I agree, but I think as well Kanye's very Kanye's an individual. Right, and that's what makes him so great. And I feel like a lot of great people, they're individuals and they say whatever's on their mind.
Yeah.
They do whatever they please, however they please. You know, ain't nobody going to tell Kanye act a certain way, because maybe they did and then he realized that's not me.
Yeah.
Now this might be the real Kanye. Like we say that with Andrew Tate as well.
I miss the old Kanye.
I hate the new Kanye. What does he say? I forgot I'm not really good with lyrics, but yeah. But maybe what we see of Kanye as in today is the real Kanye, and everything before was just a facade, was just to make the sponsors happy, the brands happy, the music entertainment business happy. And I think when people are told what to do their whole entire lives, there comes a certain point where they're just like, nah, mate, I've fucking had enough of this. I'm going outlandish. I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
And people are going to think that they're crazy, but that's actually them. That was the fire that was in them, and it was just burning, and it's like, I just need a release right now.
I think the internet really opened us up to that, right? Like on the internet, we started celebrating not the Demi Lovatos, we weren't celebrating the Taylor Swifts, we weren't celebrating the Harry Styles of the world, the people with these very well produced, manufactured, perfect photo op opportunities with very long Instagram captions that said exactly what needed to be said about every political. No one gave a shit. No one cares. No one gives a fuck about how woke you are. No one gives a fuck about how, you know, sensitive or insensitive you are on a certain issue. People just want to see your life. People want to know how you're actually living. So the internet, I feel like, is a way of rebelling against this produced, over creative, over photoshopped, over censored version of information that we're getting. And people are just going, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell it the way I see it. I'm going to show you my life in the most authentic way. And I'm going to show you I'm going to present to you my thoughts in the most authentic way. And that's why you see these new waves of creators coming forward and gaining the audiences that they're gaining. You know, someone like Cody Ko to hang out with on a podcast is just the best, because he's just going to tell you what he's thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not going to filter
He's
it
like
through
a free
anything.
spirit. He just says what's on his mind.
Exactly right.
And he just says it how it is.
Exactly right.
But is that a bad thing?
No, I think it's great.
You know?
I think we need more of that. You know, there's a wave right now of people saying not everyone should have a podcast. Not everyone should be putting their thoughts forward. It's like, why not?
Yeah, why the fuck not?
Why not?
Exactly.
If you've got something to say, you know, it might not be the most refined thought. It might not be the perfect thought. It might not be the most well-educated thought, but is anyone's thoughts really?
It's your thought at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And it's your podcast, so you say whatever the fuck you want to say.
If people want to tune in, they do.
Hell yeah.
And if they don't, they don't.
Exactly. You can
But
get
it's-
fucked.
Yeah,
Pretty much,
exactly.
man. Like, you know, there's no, I'm not trying to be like cute about it. You know, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can get fucked.
Exactly.
You know, you don't, but I think as well is that when people are at a certain high status and they care too much about their reputation, then that's when they have to kind of be a little bit careful with the words that they say. You know, you want to say your own opinion and you want to voice it, but if it's going to harm, you know, your career, or if it's going to harm, you know, the sponsors you get, or something that you uphold with, or the community that you produce content to, then people shy away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that from a business perspective, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a business and you're trying to make money and you're trying to grow a name for yourself. Right. And so you do need the caution of understanding where the barriers are and what you can and can't say. But at the same time, if you're just using this as an artistic escape and you don't give a fuck about the numbers, then why does it matter? You know,
it's
like
an individual choice.
You need to have, in my opinion, you need to have a platform where you're able to express yourself, because if you don't and your words just go unheard or unmentioned, and it might not even be to a public audience, it might just be in private. But I think the ability to express your opinions and express your thoughts is so important. You know, some people find that skill through journaling, some people find that skill through meditation, but there does need to be a process of self-reflection where you do fine-tune and correct your thoughts. And if you do make mistakes, you know, then you correct them and you fine-tune your thoughts. But and I think the best way of doing that is putting it out to the public and letting the public decide, was this something that, you know,
resonates with me or it doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, but people, this is the thing, is that when you do voice your thoughts and your opinion, I think the individual that voices it has to understand and come to terms that they don't give a fuck about how people are going to receive their information. And whilst people love voicing their opinion, as soon as they get a little bit of backlash and the odds are going against them, they quickly change it up.
Yeah, that's
like you
true.
see with like apologetic videos, when people put out apology videos, if it didn't, who was it? Was it that True Geordie bloke?
True Geordie, you saw that, right?
I seen that, yeah. So I seen that he said something about, was it about terrorists or something like that?
Yeah, so for people who are unaware at home, True Geordie is a podcaster. He's actually someone I really look up to. I do enjoy listening to his podcast, and he covers kind of the fight game in the influencer boxing. I think that's what he's most known for.
Yeah,
like
with Tyson Fury and all those.
Yeah,
those
but he
lads,
covers more like the KSIs, the Logan Pauls, the Jake Pauls, the Tommy Furies. He covers all those names, and then from that, he was able to build into your Tyson Furies, your Jordan Petersons, your Ben Shapiros. I don't know if he's had Ben on, but Russell Brands. He's been able to build a brand off of that.
Correct.
And whilst I agree with a lot of what he says, he has a very odd take on Andrew Tate, which I found interesting. He doesn't like Andrew Tate for whatever reason. I mean, there's 50 to list below as to why you might not like Andrew Tate. But anyways, they've had this beef back and forth online. And True Geordie on a live stream responded to Tate pretty much coming out saying, I'm converting to Islam. Andrew Tate said, I'm converting out to Islam. And True Geordie responded by saying, well, I hope you blow yourself up like the rest of you Muslim fucks, or something along those lines.
Unacceptable.
Rough.
Yeah.
That's a rough point of view to defend.
It is. However, though, if people didn't come and say, didn't stand him up and say, what are you saying?
Yeah.
And it kind of went past him, do you think he would have made an apology video?
No, absolutely not.
He wouldn't give a fuck.
He would have just kept doing his thing. He would have held that thought for as long as possible.
Correct.
And if it wasn't for the backlash he got, he wouldn't have an opportunity to go, okay, where did that come from?
Correct.
It was like coming from a place of love or hate, and it's a bit of a murky water in the sense that, firstly, I absolutely do not condone what he said. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think, especially in a public forum, I don't think you should say that. But I do know that when you're hanging out with the boys at a pub and you guys are drunk, you're talking shit, that wouldn't be the worst joke I've heard in that context, right? It doesn't justify saying it, especially if you've got an audience of hundreds of thousands of people watching you, but there's definitely been worth said. And I think contextually, if
just hasn't been advertised and it hasn't been filmed.
Yeah. And I think contextually, if Jimmy Carr said that, it would have given him a pass and said, oh, well, he's a comedian.
Exactly.
This is what he does.
Correct.
He's looking for a laugh. Yeah. Whereas when you're in a position like True Geordie's, where he's expected to deliver facts or deliver information or entertainment, his words hold a little bit more seriousness.
I guess so.
Because he's not held in the light of a comedian.
True. Hey, each their own, I guess.
Yeah, look, he's feeling the heat now. Gymshark pulled out, PokerStars pulled out. Like, his bottom dollar's really going to be hit by that.
Yeah, I watched I watched a bit of his apology video.
What did you think of it?
I don't know, to be fair. Like, I was reading the comments mostly, and they were saying, it's not sincere. He has to add a like, subscrib, comment, share.
My God, did he have a call to action?
He said something like that towards the end.
Oh,
People are like, how are you sincere? If you're really apologizing, you should just not make a 15, 20-minute video. Just say it in 2 minutes, hey, mate, like, I fucked up. It was uncalled for. Whether it was a joke or not, it's still pretty absurd.
Yeah.
But then he kind of kept rambling on. And I feel like you can really tell if someone is genuinely apologetic in a video. Like, I remember when, Logan Paul had that Japan incident. Yeah. I genuinely reckon he was very apologetic. Given that he was young as well. Yeah. When that happened. How old was he? Was he like 24?
No, younger. I think he's like 25 now.
Yeah.
So he would have been like 21, 22.
Yeah. So, obviously.
Sam, can you pull that up? How old's Logan Paul?
I think as well, yeah. But at the same time, he doesn't want to lose his career.
Yeah, I think.
So how true is his apology?
I think his initial reaction was more so because so many sponsors and brands and business deals were falling through. I think now that we've seen the arc of Logan Paul and seen that he's been able to personally improve his takes and personally improve his perspectives, but also he's 27. So we're looking at 22 years old.
22, 23, yeah. Young lad.
Yeah. To have the influence that he did at the time and continues to maintain.
Correct.
But I think the thing with Logan Paul, that he was able to create distance between him and that event. And we remember him now as the guy that fights on WWE, or we see him fighting Floyd Mayweather, or we see him, you know, doing an NFT or working with KSI.
Yeah, he's more an entertainer now than just rather like
and
a YouTuber.
You can see the evolution of him. And I think that's going to be one of the things that True Geordie has to, you know, kind of confront is that you're going to need now a way, at least in the public eye, to create distance between you and that incident. And it's going to take time. It's not an easy thing. Like True Geordie, you're probably not watching this, but if you are, you fucked up. You said the wrong thing at the wrong time in the wrong context, and you insulted a large group of people. Like, I think the biggest religion in the world, are Muslims the biggest religion in the world? Can you find out, Sian, how many people are Muslim? You fucking insulted one of the biggest religions in the world. Of course you're going to get pushback. That's a massive portion of the community. And you fucked up. The apology video should be 30 seconds of you saying, hey, I made a massive mistake. I shouldn't have done it. I'm going to work to do better. And that's it. We don't need the like, subscribe. We don't need monetization. We don't need 20 minutes of you rambling saying why you felt it was okay to say what you said. It's a 30-second apology. That's it. And then show us that you've changed.
Correct.
1.98 billion people that subscribe to Islamic religious views. That is, well, how much percent?
Is that the highest? Or 2022?
What was the percentage? 24.9%. A quarter of the world.
Yeah. Fuck, that's massive, man.
A quarter of the world.
Yeah, that's massive.
Doesn't surprise me Gymshark pulled out.
That's massive. Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there needs to be opportunity for forgiveness and for fine-tuning and correcting mistakes.
Correct.
You think the wrong thing, you say the wrong thing, you do the wrong thing. We need as a society, we can't just cancel people. Canceling people doesn't work.
Correct.
You just make them martyrs. You make them. Andrew Tate's the perfect example of that. He got cancelled for whatever it was that he did to piss people off, and then people, and by not letting him speak, you've made him a symbol of free speech. Let True Geordie speak. Let him correct his wrongs.
That is true. I think Andrew Tate as well has a very big backing at the moment. So if Andrew Tate didn't have an issue with it, let's say, for example, hypothetically, it was about another issue that and True Geordie made a little comment, and say Andrew Tate had no problem with it, then, you know, nothing would have happened.
Yeah.
And I think people follow Andrew Tate. Now, this is the thing. This is something I wanted to say actually about Andrew Tate, is that I actually agree with 95% of the things he says. He's a very smart man. He's an intellect. But I think people just follow him like a blind mice in the sense where you need to understand that Andrew Tate is an individual. He's a character, just like Kobe, just like MJ, just like Conor McGregor. You know, none of them wanted to mimic each other. Obviously, they were influenced by people, but they became an individual.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like in our culture at this point in time, a lot of the young lads are just following one person like a blind mice, which is like, you shouldn't really do that. You know, you should learn from these people, take the good out of them, maybe ignore the bad, and then you create your own legacy and your own culture and your own individual identity, if you know what I'm trying to say. So I think Andrew Tate is very influential, but at the same time, you know, you shouldn't listen to him word for word, because he's a great marketer. He knows exactly what he's doing. I think he's the best marketer on the planet at the moment. But he is an individual, and I think people tend to lean on to Andrew Tate for advice all the time, and they can't even shape their own opinions.
Well, I think it's important to hear perspectives that you don't agree with. I think it's important to hear the Andrew Tate take on something, and also what would be the opposite of Andrew Tate? Probably a blue-haired lesbian from New York, right? Like the complete opposite range of spectrum. And it's important to hear Andrew Tate and Sunshine. Her name's Sunshine. It's important to hear both perspectives and then make your own decisions. If you live within an echo chamber and you live within where, like we were talking about before, where the same ideas are rotating around over and over and over again, then
you become consumed by that, and that's all you know. And because you haven't branched out and seen different opinions and different views, your perspective is very one-sided, and then it often becomes biased.
Yes.
You know,
And the problem with biases is that you don't see them. You don't know that you have them. You just think this is the way things are. These are the facts that, are at hand. But you might have only received some of the facts in some context. And, it's important to have a wide ranging, like I listen to podcasts where I think the hosts are absolute idiots and I hate them, but I listen to it because I'm like, okay, well, if this is my reflection of a bad podcast, then what don't I like about that and how can I make my own shit better?
True.
And I think it's
But then someone else might receive it and say this interview was the fucking best interview on the planet.
Exactly right.
But he might be biased towards that interviewer because he probably heard something about him or he likes a specific detail about him. It's always going to resonate with him forever.
Yeah.
So, people
Who
are
do you
biased.
think, trying to take this back to you and your career, who do you think was the most influential figure in getting you out of footy and out of that world into the gym? Like what really sparked that interest for you?
Well, I'd be lying if I said it was someone. I didn't really have anyone. I think it was just myself.
Right.
It was literally myself and my faith in God that made me want to become something, right? When I did footy, obviously I enjoyed it, but for me, it wasn't a career that I could see myself in the long term. Although when I was playing footy, I know at night I would always sleep and dream about, wearing a jersey one day, playing for the doggies, running out and they can hear my name, Isaac, number 9, dummy half. Like I could always envision that, right? But I never actually saw a career out of it. And I don't think I was that good anyway to make it. But when I shifted from footy into bodybuilding, it resonated with me that it was such a subjective and individual sport that it was actually up to me. It's not up to the team. It's up to myself. All the odds are against me. I'm a newbie. I'm a rookie. I got to prove something. And for me, it was more not about the body. It was about the mindset, right? When I was doing bodybuilding, at the start, initially, I was like, yeah, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get abs. I'm going to get big biceps.
What did you start at? Were you heavy? Were you light? Where was your body at when you first started taking it seriously?
No, I was okay. I started taking it serious at the start of 2021. I was just average, maybe 83, 84 kilos.
Right.
And then, but I think 2020 is what kind of sparked it, because 2020 I was I don't like using the word depressed because I don't believe in depression, but I was in a very bad mental state. And I think that was what helped me become better. So in 2020.
Why were you in a bad mental state?
Well, to be completely fair, sorry about that. Even Stu doesn't know how to respond to it.
That's your publicist going, no.
Hell yeah. He's like, shut the fuck up. I felt like I had no purpose in my life. If we actually take that back to 2019 or 2018, that was actually one of my worst years. If we have time, I've got a little story I'd like to say.
We've got heaps of time, bro.
Awesome. Sweet. So, man, I was just an average kid. I had no direction in my life. And I felt after I finished high school, the footy thing didn't work out for me. I got into law. And then after that, I was just like, it's not for me. And I completely just ignored university, whatever. Anyways, between 2018 to 2019, a lot of things happened in about 2 months. Pretty much, I got kicked out of 3 universities.
All right, guys, we need to stop for a second because I want to ask you something. Do you know what the number one regret is for a human being? It's not betting on themselves. It's not taking a chance, and it's not chasing that dream that you often see discussed on this show. And do you know what the number one reason as to why people don't do that? It's because of money. But if there's anything I want you to take away from this podcast, it's that you can. You can go and chase your dreams. You can travel the world. You can start the next Fortune 500 company. That's why I'm super excited to announce that I've partnered with Monarch Financial Group. Monarch Financial Group are a team of mortgage brokers who are absolutely committed to making sure you get access to the money that you need and the education that you need. They've got teams of mortgage brokers with over 10 years of industry experience. And that experience goes towards fighting tooth and nail to make sure that you get the best deal possible. So it's time to stop procrastinating on that dream. It's time to go to monarchfinancialgroup.com.au. Make sure to mention Lucas podcast in the process. 3.
Yeah, 3 universities I got kicked out of. 2 of them because I just never showed up and never did anything. And one of them I had a bit of an argument with the professor. I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go into detail. It was just very silly. So that was that.
Why did you keep going back to university?
Just for my parents, I reckon.
Yeah.
You know, just for my parents. But I think I just always wanted to make my parents happy in some way or in some sort of fashion. You know, I didn't want them to think, oh, you know, this kid's a total failure. And I use that term very like, I don't know what I was going to say.
Vaguely.
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. But just to make my mum happy, I reckon. But then, and what's funny is that, you know, I got kicked out of uni and then I got kicked out of my job and then I started getting on, you know, like recreational drugs. I'll never say I was a drug addict, but, you know, here and there, the boys are getting on it, you know, you want to have a line here and there. And then all of that happened. And then at one stage, I was coming back one night. It was about 1:30 at night from a party. I shouldn't be driving, first and foremost. Shouldn't have not been driving. And I was turning into my street, the street where I live in. And I was at the intersection. I was high. I was high as fuck, man. And I turned around and I hit a guy on a motorbike and he fucking flew 30 meters, right, off the bike. It was such a crazy experience, right? Fucking flew 30 meters on the ground. I get outside. I don't know how to react. I'm like, what the fuck? Is this guy dead? Is he not? What's going on here? I go, I check. Hey, mate, are you all right? He's doing a groaning sound. It sounds like he's dying, you know? He's just going, and I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I was in total shock, right? Luckily, there was people around and they called the ambulance and then obviously the coppers came, you know, and long story short, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. All I know was that he was in a very critical condition and I was pretty much fucked. So I went home and then my mum actually was awake at that time. She's like, what happened? And I was like, oh, mum, like something happened. I didn't want to tell her anything about the drugs. So I just said to her, oh, look, to be honest, I had a drink or two and then, you know, I had a little accident, but it's all good. So I didn't want to alarm her. I didn't want to tell her anything. The next day I called my lawyer up and I'm like, hey, mate, like, is it fucked? He's like, mate, if he's, you know, if something, God forbid, but if something bad's happened to him, you know, if he's dead or if he's, you know, disabled, like you're pretty much, you know, you're done. So I was a bit nervous, yeah. A couple months later, I get a phone call from the coppers. They're like, "I'll come down to the station." So, you know, naturally, I'm thinking they're probably going to, you know, tell me, you know, you've got a court date and these are the procedures and, you know, so on and so forth. So I went down to the cop station, right? And they were like, "Oh, the charges are dropped." What? Like, what do you mean charges are dropped? Mind you, like, I did a piss test, I did a blood test. They obviously knew I was intoxicated of some sort, whether it was drugs or alcohol. And then pretty much they're like, yeah, mate, charges are dropped. Here's just a fine and a suspension. You're going to get it in the mail for your license.
Wow.
And that was it. And I was like, damn, bro. Like, God fucking saved me there, bro. You know what I mean? And until this day, later on, I found out, I didn't even know who the person was. Later on, I found out I hit this bloke on his birthday. I think it was his 35th birthday, and I think he was intoxicated himself because obviously when they take him to hospital, they do the blood work and they check what's in his system. And I think all he wanted was, or this is what I think all he wanted was his bike back and someone to pay his hospital bills. Apparently he was fine.
Wow.
And I've never met the bloke, and I don't even know who he is. So that was major for me. Like, that was like, bro, like, God just saved your fucking ass there, bro.
Yeah.
He saved you big time, bro. You know, you can't like fall back into the trap and start being a dickhead.
If he wasn't like that and if he decided to press charges, what were you looking at?
I don't even know.
Like, did you have that conversation with your lawyers? Like, how bad?
No, I didn't really. I spoke to my lawyer and he's just like, if he's dead or if he's permanently disabled, you're liable. Like, you're pretty much fucked.
Yeah.
Considering, you know, I shouldn't even be driving under the influence. Plus, you know, it was substance and all of that. So
yeah, those charges would have stacked up.
Yeah. Like, it's almost, it gives me chills thinking about it because that could have shaped my whole entire future in a completely different direction. Like, we wouldn't have not been right here right now doing a podcast. I probably could have been in the can. I don't know, but that was a big wake up call, right? And then everything kind of went downhill from there, and I really got depressed from that time. And then I think from that decision, I know from that decision, I was like, bro, that's it. You ain't touching none of it. Like, God got you out of this situation. You ain't touching no drugs. You ain't touching none of this bullshit. I'll still have the occasional drink here and there, but I'm more responsible now. I would never drive if I'm intoxicated or any of that manner. But that was the biggest shift in my life, where it was like, bro, you need to get your act together. But from that time, obviously, because your body's trying to recover, because, you were once this person and now you're trying to change, that transitional period is always very hard. So you do fall into cycles of anxiety, depression. You feel like sorry for yourself. You feel worthless.
Do you feel like you're ever addicted?
What do you mean by that?
Like, you mentioned earlier that every once in a while you jump on the bags, or I don't know what you were taking, but do you ever feel like you were hooked on the substances, like you had to do it?
No. It was just a casual thing, with the boys. But then it just became a bit more often. Yeah. And that's the crazy thing about substance abuse is that, you take it once. And then, you go out again, and then you realize, well, I can't go out unless I have a bag. And then it becomes 2 bags. And then the boys are, let's get on it. And then it becomes somewhere, midweek. And then you realize, holy fuck, I'm doing it on a Wednesday night. I'm doing it on a Saturday night, Sunday night. And then Monday I feel like shit. So I think it's it was never an addiction, because I never dwelled in it too much. It was only for a couple of months. But I could see where it was going to take me. And it was definitely taking me in a bad direction.
I think that's one of the hardest parts about, that separation period, when you do try and transition into a new life and you do and try and transform yourself, right? Because that's what you're talking about. You went through a very casual approach to how you were treating your life. You were okay without partying.
I was a reckless kid,
You were invincible.
Exactly.
You were invincible. Exactly. No one could touch you. You could do whatever you wanted. Correct. And you'd never faced consequences before. And then, bang. Massive wake-up call.
And I always say, as much as God can give, God can take within a second.
Exactly.
Within a second, So don't think that any of your talents or any of your capabilities is solely from you. No, it's given. It's a gift given to you, and the way you use it, you've got to be very careful with the way you use the gifts that God gives you. And as much as God can give you, like maybe God gave you the talent of speaking, but you don't know what could happen, So I always think that I should never take anything for granted. And that specific time, I was taking a whole lot of shit for granted. Yeah. And it woke me up. It was like, bro, you're better than this. And I think God got me out of that situation as well, simply because of the fact that he knew I had a better purpose in my life. And he knew that I'm not that guy, even though in my head I wanted to be that bad guy, I wanted to, take drugs, sell them. I want to be a gangster, bro. I want to be cool. I want people to respect me. So at that time, I felt like no one was respecting me. People just knew me as, he's just a shady little kid, bro. He just does this, he gets on the bags. And then obviously I was going down a path where there's no future for you, And I think the reason what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to shape the future for not just myself, but for my family, my future generations, and for the young kids. Because when we were younger, I don't see anyone in this community or in Australia trying to actually make a positive impact on the youth. Like who did that? I don't know anyone that did that for me, but I can do that. I have the voice. So if I can do it and I can change my life around, and hey, I'm not talented. I just worked hard and I just figured out I have a purpose. I have a hadaf. I say I have a hadaf is an Arabic word for saying purpose. And I figured out, well, if I can do it and I can change my mind and my thoughts and my emotions, and I can be something and take the risk and do bodybuilding and try and change the course of things, then why can't you? Why can't you find your purpose?
So you've had this massive incident and you've said, you know what, like I'm ready to make a massive change in my life. I'm ready to go and pursue something greater than me.
Yes.
Was the immediate reaction to say, okay, I'm going to start hitting gym really hard, or were there some other aspects of your life that you had to fix first?
I think gym was the main thing.
Right.
I realized I was getting bigger and I was never a fat kid, but I was getting bigger, and I thought, you know, the first thing that I feel comfortable in is the gym. I love the gym. I've always loved it. It's always been a little bit of a hobby for me. So let me just try and get myself into some sort of routine.
Yeah.
So I started going 3 days a week. It became 4, and then it became 5. Then I could see myself progressing and actually changing my mood by changing my body.
Yeah.
Right? We often think that when we go to the gym, yeah, we do change our bodies, but our body is just, is like this whole entire process is not even about your body. It's about how strong your mind is.
That's you
know?
couldn't have said it better. You couldn't have said it better.
Crazy.
Everyone sees bodybuilding or gym or athletics as sport as a physical pursuit.
Correct.
Everyone sees it as you trying to just get bigger biceps and a bigger
Correct.
chest, and there's a little bit of that.
Correct.
People look at themselves in the mirror. They want to like what they see. Absolutely. But the bigger thing is, what mindset do I have to hit? What frequency do I have to get to in order to hit that level?
right.
And that's the addiction.
That's right.
That's the sport. That's the game. That's
The
why.
physique is just the cherry on top of the cake.
Exactly.
The mindset is the cake, bro. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You've spent so much time thinking about it and actually manifesting it that it then becomes into fruition.
Mm-hmm.
But then you realize after the whole entire journey, it was never about the physique. It was how strong and how willing I was to continue and pursue this and become better and find out more about myself as an individual, right? And I felt that way when I decided that, yes, I want to try this bodybuilding shit out.
Yeah.
So 2021 comes around. I see this coach at Leisure Dome Gym. His name is Sasho Ognanovsky. I see this coach and I was like, okay, you know, hey, mate, I've heard you're one of the best natural bodybuilders that I've ever seen. And to be completely fair, he is one of the best natural bodybuilders I have ever seen in my whole entire life. He's won Muscle Mania. He's won these big shows around the world being a natural. So I said to him, hey, mate, like, I want to join. I want to do bodybuilding. Without hesitation, he was like, yep, jump on board. This is what you're going to do. I'm going to put you out on a diet for a couple of weeks and see if you know. He kind of wanted to test me to see if I was going to fuck up.
Yeah.
Which I didn't, because I was dead set serious about it. And when he realized that I was dead set serious, I passed that probationary period and he's like, all right, Matt, we can start a proper prep together. Then obviously in July or June when COVID restriction, the lockdown hit, it was about that time. So the gym's shut, right? We had about 3 boys that were competing at the same time. 2 of them pulled out. They're like, nah, no way. There's no way I'm going to be doing this bodybuilding shit. You know, if the gym's cut, you know, the gym's shut down.
It was such an easy way out, right?
Exactly.
Like, the gyms are closed. I can't work out.
Exactly. You know, what do, you know? And to be fair, I don't think it's a bad decision because you want a prep to be proper. I realized this year because I had a proper prep this year as opposed to last year. Last year wasn't a proper prep. So as soon as I figured out that, you know, gyms are in lockdown, I was like, man, I got to think quick, think fast. So I went to my mate. His name is Jake Trukovsky. He actually works at Catch Fitness. So if you guys need some good gym equipment, Catch Fitness is the way to go. I was like to him, bro, I need a power rack. I need some gym mats. I need some dumbbells. I need this. I need that.
Yeah.
Man, legend of a guy. He sorted it out for me straight away. And luckily his place, his warehouse, where he operates at was quite close to home. So I was like, man, you know, still in the kilometer range, you know, the 5K range. Sweet. Sorted it out straight away, decked out my whole entire garage, built this gym equipment, and I was like, let's get to work. And my coach seen that and he's like, fuck, this cunt's committed. This cunt's dead set serious. Like, he ain't going to stop. I'm like, bro, you can't stop me, bro. You know, you got to kill me to quit, man. You know, because, you know, how can you lose if you don't stop moving, you know?
Exactly.
You can't. You can.
I respect the hustle so much, man, because
You can't.
it's so easy. I think especially in Australia where we are such a resource rich and such an opportunity rich country where, you know, I can go to a podcast studio and just start recording episodes out of nowhere.
Correct.
And make something of myself. And that opportunity exists here in Australia, in a suburb that's not even one of the best suburbs in Australia. And that exists. And in so many other countries or in so many other situations or in so many other economies, that doesn't happen. True. You don't have the resources available.
No, we don't.
And so it's so easy to take that for granted. And so when it's taken away from you and there's a 5-kilometer radius and you can't go and work out because the gyms are closed because the air is poison, which is essentially what they told us, that the air was poison. that you have to stay home. You still problem solved. You still found a way to make the most of the situation that you had.
I had to because the desire that I had for it was burning. You know, I think if you don't have a desire for something, then it's just on its surface. It doesn't mean shit. But when your desire is burning and you really care about what your purpose is, man, you'll find a way. If you really want something, you'll find a way to fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
You know? So that's kind of what happened.
You know, there's this quote that I live by, and I give a big shout out to Mehmet, because Mehmet, I know you have this tattooed on your shoulder, but there's this quote that I live by that if you want to take over the island, you have to burn the boats.
You have to.
You have to burn the boats. You have to land on the island and realize, okay, we're here to conquer this island. There is no way out now. We're going to set those boats on fire. We're going to go and conquer that thing. And I think too many people lived in this half-assed world of, I'm going to try this thing and see if it works out and see if I'm good at it, but really I'm not sure. So I don't know. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck living with safety nets.
Yeah.
Fuck you living with these situations where you've got backup plans or plan Bs or plan Cs. It's like, no, like if
Arnold says it. Arnold says, I don't have a plan B. And the reason why we work well with no safety net is that if we have a plan A only without a plan B, then we're betting all of our odds on plan A. Like, this shit has to work.
you have to figure it out.
It has to work.
Yes,
you know?
that's exactly it.
I ain't going to say, all right, well, I'll try it and then maybe, you know, I can fall back on something. Nah, bruh. I'm betting my fucking odds on plan A, bro.
Yeah.
So if this shit doesn't work, I got to die.
Yeah.
This is it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the same mentality that I had, bro.
That's when you hit the frequencies. That's when you hit the wavelengths that the greats have hit, because they had no other option.
Correct.
Usually not even to their control. Like Arnold lived in a small town of absolutely fucking nothing around him, and he had no other option, but he knew he was good at this thing. He knew he could do it, and he knew that if he dedicated every single second of his day to this one goal of hitting absolute physical perfection and absolutely hitting these reps and getting his nutrition absolutely on point. And we're talking about this tiny little town in Austria where it was freezing cold during the winters. He goes and takes that risk and says, you know what, I'm going to go to the United States. I'm going to become one of the best bodybuilders. I'm going to become one of the best actors. I'm going to become one of the best politicians that's ever lived in the United States.
That takes fucking balls.
That takes massive fucking cajones, man.
Is that balls?
Yeah.
In what language is that?
Spanish.
Well, say it again.
Cajones.
Cajones. I got cajones. How do you say steel?
Oh, that's a good
Like,
question.
I want to say I got balls of steel.
Yeah. Cajones de metal. Yeah,
Whatever
something
he said,
like
that's
that.
what I got.
But yeah, Arnold hit that frequency where he said, I'm in this small town in Austria. I've got absolutely no other option. I have to hit this level of success. And he goes and does it. And he becomes a successful actor. And he becomes a successful politician. And he becomes a successful bodybuilder.
That's right.
One of the greatest bodybuilders the world's ever seen.
That's right.
Because he had no plan B. There were no boats to back him up. He had to go and take over all the islands that he set his eyes on.
That's correct. And massive props to him as well, because, you know, he moved to another country, an English-spoken predominantly country. The bloke couldn't even speak English properly, but he didn't give a fuck. He immersed himself in it. He's like, if I'm going to set out to do one thing, I'm going to do it. And one thing I really do admire about Arnold is that we see Arnold as the bodybuilder, the actor, the politician, right? But we don't see the specific goal that he had at the start. He said, I want to become a professional bodybuilder. That was the goal, right? And I think if we tend to think about all these ideas and I want to be this, but I kind of want to be that as well, but I want to be this, then we don't actually stick to the goal that we want. So when I said I'm going to do this bodybuilding shit, I was like, bro, I want to do bodybuilding. This is it. This is my goal. Fuck everything else. This is what I'm going to do. Even if we're in lockdown, I just had to work like a fucking machine. Wake up, eat, train, cardio, sleep. Wake up, eat, train, cardio, sleep. I had to, because my focus and my goal was very specific. And if you want to achieve something in your life, you need to be specific about what you want. Like, I'd imagine you love doing podcasting, correct? Mm-hmm. You want to be the best podcaster on the planet.
I am the best podcaster on the planet.
Yes, you are. No, of course. See, that's confidence right
Subscribe, motherfuckers. 1K by the end of the year.
Correct. No, but what I'm trying to say is that if this is your goal, then you have to bet all your odds on this shit.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you can't think, all right, I'll do podcasting for a bit, but then I'll do this business idea for... No. You got to dedicate yourself to podcasting. It's solely podcasting.
Yeah. And look, I have to be completely honest with you, man. I'm going to pull up these text messages that I hit my girlfriend with the other day because the reality is it's not always smooth sailing. The reality is that behind these cameras and behind the scenes, and I imagine it'd be very similar for you, it's like there's so much that goes wrong and there's so many times that you want to quit or that you want to give up.
You doubt yourself too as
well. And you can't, of course, bro, do you doubt yourself?
Bro, people that say, oh, I don't doubt I'm the champion, that's what they show you, but they really do doubt themselves and they overthink like a motherfucker.
Yeah, man.
But they don't show you that.
The first hour, if a TikTok hasn't got X amount of views, I'm like, oh, shit.
Shit, bro, you know?
But that's because that's my industry and that's my game and that's how I measure success, right? Is that if a video gets a certain amount of exposure, then that's going to, you know, directly implicate my success. And I think, you know, it's also important that, yes, we can have the strongest mindsets and yes, we can be absolutely certain and yes, we can burn the boats and make sure that there is no other option but to find success. But even after you've burnt the boats, those doubts do come in.
Of course.
Those questions of like, am I doing the right thing? Am I just wasting my time? You see everyone else around you succeeding and doing well or what you perceive to be doing well at the very least, right? And you kind of look at yourself and go, fuck, am I doing this the right way? Am I doing the right thing? And I was literally having this conversation with my girlfriend yesterday and I was just like, fuck, what did I say? I feel like I'm missing out on so much life doing this thing no one cares about. Fuck my life. And I said some other shit I can't say on the camera.
Dirty talk, bro.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But my point is that, like, even though I'm very aware that this isn't. No, actually, fuck that. This is the biggest podcast in the world. But I'm very aware that...
Don't doubt yourself, brother.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm very aware that for what people see on camera, they might think, oh, he's just naturally confident and naturally this way. And, you know, he just says something and he does it and he doesn't really... Like, he's just confident. And I think, like, you have to remain with the perspective that everyone has doubts and everyone's not 100% sure about what they're doing. For you, it would have been a big risk to go and quit university and to take on a job and take on a job that was completely out of your industry when you're trying to study law and then go and quit that job and then go and just go full time into the bodybuilding thing. There's a lot of uncertainty in what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think as well is that when you make a commitment towards something, you know, you can't back down now because you've made that commitment. Like you've told yourself, that's it. This is what I'm going to do. Obviously, you'll have doubts. Obviously, you're going to have struggles. Obviously, you're going to be overwhelmed. And you're going to think to yourself, man, is this even the right decision? Because I think when we accustom ourselves to just full-time work, whether we work or whether we don't work, we're still getting paid X amount of hours that we put in. All right, we still get the same wage every single week, right? But I feel like when there's no price tag on value, well, then that's your opportunity to provide it. So if you want to make a commitment of being, like, for example, a bodybuilder, right? Obviously, it's an industry where it doesn't get paid that well. But it doesn't matter because your purpose is I need to train my mind to become bigger than the prospect that I'm facing. I need to challenge myself. And if we're not continually challenging ourselves, then what are we living for?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of our life? If I can't, you know, sacrifice time and effort and go through short-term struggle for long-term success, then what's the point of living? I don't want to be fucking ordinary. I don't want to be like every other motherfucker. Hey, I might not be the biggest bodybuilder at the moment. I might not be the most decorated and I've got all these accolades, but hey, I'm starting. You know, if I didn't start then, I would have never started, you know? And if you haven't started yet, start now. There's always opportunity to start. You just have to start. You have to put yourself in the deep end. And when you feel like you're drowning, that's when you feel alive. your adrenaline is fucking spiky. Yes. You know, you've got to be crazy.
The truth,
bro. You've
man.
got to be crazy.
Truth.
You know, I was speaking to you beforehand about when I was doing the prep. The show kept getting delayed a month another month. And so my prep went from...
Let's just provide a little bit of context here.
Yes.
So you, during lockdown, you go and hit the your home gym, you deck it out exactly the way you want it, which is really interesting because during lockdown is when I built the podcast studio, the first edition of it. So we did the exact same thing, just in different domains.
Blessing in disguise, I think.
Absolutely.
That lockdown was.
It really was. And you go and train really hard for about... What would you say, 6-7 months?
I'd say 8 months, man.
8 months.
From March to about November.
Right.
And how many months is that? Is that 8?
Sure, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not good with maths.
Public school maths.
Shit. Sorry, Mum.
So you go from that to going, okay, I'm ready for a competition now. So you were supposed to compete when?
So I was supposed to compete, I think it was September or end of August, start of September.
Of 2020.
Of 2021.
2021, right.
2020 was just when I wanted to start getting myself
Right.
into the mojo of gym. 2021 is when I said, okay, I'm going to take this bodybuilding shit a bit serious. I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I think it was end of August, start of September. And then because of the COVID restrictions, it got delayed, August, September, October, November. And then it was like, there was a date where they were a bit unsure. They weren't sure when exactly in November it was. It ended up being fucking the end of November or something like that.
Right.
I think it was like November, because there was 2 comps that I did. I did November 7 and then November 26, and they were with 2 different federations, both natural federations. So the idea of the uncertainty was, sometimes I was sitting at home prepping and I'm like, bro, I don't even know what the fuck. I don't even know if this shit's going to even continue. What am I doing this for? I was doubting myself a little bit. I'd be doing cardio each night. I'd always do cardio at night. I love walking at night because no one else is walking and it's fucking cold and it's like, yeah, bruh, it's me and the fucking wind, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Let's do it, bruh. Let's get it, Who else is walking, bro? No one. Only me.
I love that.
Who else
I love that feeling.
It's crazy,
I think that's why people train at 4 a.m.
That's right.
Because these fucking sociopaths that wake up at 4 a.m. to go train.
Yeah.
There must be something you just get off on where you're just like, yeah, who else is up at 4 in the morning?
Exactly.
And then you see that one other motherfucker that's training and you're like, what's up?
Yeah. I wonder what time you woke up, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not a morning person. I'm a late night person.
Yes.
I love working in the late night, just for me personally, And I think it's a little bit of a myth. People are like, to be successful, man, you need to be waking up at 4 a.m. and doing, nah, bro. It's how much you get done.
Yeah.
I think Denzel says it. He says his mum used to tell him, you might be doing a lot, but there's not a lot doing.
Yeah.
So, organize your day, get the shit that's mainly done,
So you go from training to deciding that you enter your first comp, but it keeps getting pushed back, keeps getting pushed back. How much did that affect your actual prep? Because the bodybuilders that I've spoken to have said that there is a very clear scientific calculation to make sure that they hit a certain body type on a certain type of date. Like it's very designed that you're going to eat this many carbs, drink this much water and hit this many sauna sessions in the lead up to a competition.
Correct.
So when you don't have the absolute guarantee of the competition being on that date, how much did that mess with your prep?
For me personally, I didn't give a fuck.
Right.
I still felt in my heart it was going ahead. I had that belief. I didn't give a fuck how many months it was getting pushed back. The focus is still there, Doesn't matter if it's getting pushed back. That gives me an extra month to get better. That's how I thought of it. If I had competed in September, maybe my body wouldn't have not looked as good as it would have, as it was in November. So I didn't give a fuck. I was like, push it back. Let's do it. But I just wanted it to happen,
Yeah.
Even when they were like, okay, well then you've got to get vaccinated to compete. And I was a little bit like, I was actually against getting vaccinated, but I didn't give a fuck because I'm like, nothing is going to stop me from doing this. Like I've dedicated 7-8 months of my life, just working like a robot, eat, sleep, train, repeat, keep doing that. Man, I ain't fucking stopping for no one.
Yeah.
That's how much it meant to me. And because of that, I ended up winning the junior division. I won the junior division in A and B, and then I came second in the second competition, which was 2 weeks later. And for me, it wasn't even about the wins. I won, great, mad, I won. It's one show, it doesn't even fucking matter. But for me, a true winner was, for me personally, how I felt I was winning was I went through the prep. I did it when nobody thought that they could do it. You know, people pulled out. People were like, it's too hard. I can't train. There's no gyms. There's not a proper prep. Nah, if anything, I think it done me more good than harm, because in lockdown, we had no distractions. So I wasn't looking at people going out, partying, drinking, eating, enjoying their life. Everyone was at home. So I might as well use this time to my own advantage and do something about it, bro. You know, and it kind of kept me a bit sane as well. So I do find it is a blessing.
Yeah.
And that's perspective. That's what life is about. It's all about perspective. If you can find the good in the bad, well then your perspective is really subjective.
What you said there really resonates with me, because there was definitely an opportunity for people to either sit around on the couch and just hang out, and then also go and pursue that dream that they've probably been putting off. Like lockdown really separated the chalk from the cheese. This thing that you've been putting off, well, you've got unlimited time now to do whatever you want. The government's paying you. You're going to be home all the time. What are you going to do with that time?
That's right.
And most people just watch Netflix and hung out.
But it was the true champions like yourself and like people that learnt a new skill or wanted to better themselves. They found that time to be, okay, well, we've got a bit of a break from normal, from reality. Let me now find something that I'm interested in. So you started this podcast during lockdown. That's probably the best thing you ever did.
100%.
It's up and going. It's fucking firing, man. You know, I started this bodybuilding shit during lockdown. Had I stopped there and had I caved into my emotions and said, nah, it's too hard, or if you caved in and said, it's too hard to start, where am I going to get the guests, man? It's lockdown, I can't be bothered. Well then, bruh, like, you're a fucking failure. Because you didn't even give it a shot. But you were like, if all the odds are against me, I'm backing myself all the way.
Yeah.
And that's what I did as well. So I think it's very important, bro. I think it's very important to have that goal.
You've competed twice now on natural bodybuilding federations, right? And you've made a very big point to push yourself as hard as you can, and you've decided not to endeavor with performance enhancing drugs like trenolol or human growth hormone or, you know, any version of a steroid. Is that something that you're committed to long term, or do you think there will come a point in your career where you go, okay, we do need some of the extra stuff to get us into the big leagues?
Yeah, it's a very touchy subject. Though,
it is, right?
Look, to be completely honest, I think if you do want to get to the highest of heights and you want to be the best of the best, well, you've got to make some sacrifices. I don't think personally, as a natural bodybuilder, you can compete in the professional leagues and win. Yeah, you can compete. I don't even know if you could actually, you know, because you've got to go through certain stages to get to the big stage. So you can compete with the bigger boys.
Yeah, the IFBB and the Olympias and everything in between.
Well, that's right, yeah. You need to win like a national show, and then you get your pro card, and then from your pro card you want to compete in the Mr. Olympia. And, you know, I just think that, look, if you want to be the best of the best, you've got to make some sort of sacrifice. At the moment, I haven't thought that much far into it. There may come a time where I think about it, but at the moment I'm doing this natural as long as I could. Because I think, look, a lot of people, this is just in general, people go to the gym for like 2-3 months and they think, yep, all right, I kind of know what I'm doing. Sweet, let me jump on some sort of steroid, right? It's like, bro, you haven't immersed yourself in the diet. You haven't immersed yourself in building the foundation. Like if you don't build a foundation in a house, it's going to fucking fall. You've got to build the foundation, you know, you've got to build the brickwork, and then you add, you know, the little touches, the finer touches to make it beautiful, right? Whereas if you don't get the foundational basis or the foundational approach correct from the start, well then what are you doing? You know, so you shouldn't. I feel like a lot of little kids, they jump in the gym for 2-3 months, you know, they somewhat eat right, which they probably, their diet's not even in check. And then they fucking think that, yeah, I'm going to be the next Roddy Coleman. Like, no, mate, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And then they come off whatever they come off and they become depressed. And
I think, like, you know, from a bodybuilding perspective and from an athletic perspective, I can understand the use of steroids and performance enhancing drugs because at the end of the day, if you're looking at competition, you're always looking for an edge.
Correct.
And whether your edge is in the equipment that you're using or the training regime that you're using or the supplements that you're using or the steroids that you use, you're always looking to make that 1% gain.
That's right.
So I think, you know, I welcome steroids into the bodybuilding circuits, and I think it should just be open and transparent. And
I think so too.
It should be healthily monitored so that, you know, you are getting the right doses from the right doctors at the right times. But that's in very specific circumstances. I think
so
if
too.
you're a 20-year-old that's probably been training for a couple months and is, you know, just taking steroids every day without even lifting any weights, it's like you're just going to fuck up your liver because there are balances that have to be made. And when you do go super hard on testosterone, for example, you do risk a lot of internal issues like with your livers or your kidneys,
cholesterol, all of that stuff.
your skin pigmentation, your like there's so much that you're balding. Like balding is a very common occurrence for people that take certain steroids.
Side effect, correct.
It's a massive side effect. Acne. And
I think, sorry to cut you off, I think that people just shouldn't rely on the supplements to get to the goal that they want. I think with all these bodybuilders, whether they're enhanced or not, the main fundamental basis is still there.
Yeah.
The diet, the training, the ethics, the way you produce in and out, because this bodybuilding shit, it's not like if you're a soccer player, right? You train for X amount of time, you win the championship, and then you've got to relax. You've got like a couple months to relax until you go back into training.
Yeah.
Whereas this sport is 365 days, 24/7. You cannot afford to fuck up your diet for more than a couple of days. Obviously we do take diet breaks here and there after a comp. Just whatever you crave, you eat. But you cannot afford to fuck up the routine that you have. So if your diet's not in check and your training's not in check and your sleep's not in check, well then what's the steroid used for? Steroids are just there, like it's just an enhancement. It just enhances your physique, but you've already built the foundation. So people need to build a foundation first before considering even touching these performance enhancing drugs.
yeah.
Yeah, and you need to be aware of the risks. I think, look, we let people go skydiving and we let people go on motocross and we let people jump, crazy heights off of bridges into water. Like people that have an appetite for risk are just going to take risk. And I think individual freedom and the ability to choose and make your own decisions is right for everyone in most circumstances. I think if you want to go and jump on gear and you want to go and jump on juice, you should have every right to do so, just as long as you know what like the trade-off for that is.
Correct.
You shouldn't be.
And most people don't, because most people are not educated enough. They just see old mate fucking jumped on the juice for 2 months and he blew up like a fucking balloon. Yeah, I want to be like that bloke.
Yeah.
But you don't know what that guy's going through.
Yeah.
His kidneys fucking probably failing on him. His liver's fucking up. He might have not done his own research. Or there could be another guy who's been training for ages, is monitoring it with a doctor, knows what he's doing. That's in check. He's smart about it. There's different ways you can approach performance enhancing drugs.
I think it takes openness and transparency.
That's right.
Like, I'm all for a fight federation going, you know what, we're just going to let everyone juice up. We're going to let everyone get on steroids because we just want the freakiest, craziest fights out of everyone. And if all the fighters are on the same page and everyone knows that, okay, nothing's off the tables, you can take whatever the fuck you want, that would be an awesome fight card. Tell me you don't want to see Khabib on steroids. That is a scary motherfucker, right? Obviously, Khabib would never do it because that's not his character and that's not who he is. What I'm saying is those would be extremely entertaining fights. As long as the fighters know what's up, as long as the organization knows what's up, as long as the doctors at hand know what's up, and the athletes at the end of the day who are the ones taking the risk shouldn't be limited in their ability to take the risk. If they're stepping into a cage to butt heads with another fighter and possibly get a shin to the head or get choked unconscious, and they say, you know what, this supplement over here, this Mexican juice, this thing I'm going to put in my butt is going to make me 2% better and give me a 2% edge over the competition, then let them do it.
Do you think, sorry, let me just ask you a question. Do you think that UFC fighters don't use steroids?
I think it's very hard to use steroids in the UFC. I think it's most likely that if you've got millions of dollars at disposal and you've got resources and doctors at your hand, you can probably get away with a lot. You can probably get away with a lot in the UFC if you just know how to do it properly. There's this YouTube channel I watch only recently I've started getting into it, which is more plates, more dates, and he explains down the cycles that people like John Jones might be on or Conor McGregor might be on. Do you know, for example, that Conor McGregor hasn't been tested by USADA in the last 2 years?
Well, no, I actually didn't know that.
He has not been tested by USADA in the last 2 years, and no one's talking about it. Every other athlete on the UFC roster has been tested within the last 2 years, and he hasn't. You understand the bodybuilding scene. You understand how these steroids work, even though you don't take them yourself. And you know that in 2 years, you can flush a lot out of your system.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
You can flush. You did
Probably
2
even
months.
after 6 months, yeah. A couple months. Mate, you do a blood test, it's as if your levels come back to normal if you've monitored them properly.
Conor McGregor is coming off a broken leg against his fight of Dustin Poirier, and you think he wouldn't be interested in increasing his bone density? You think he wouldn't be interested in increasing even things so minute now, man, like things like your motor skills, your reaction time, your eyesight. They have steroids for all of this stuff now.
People think steroids are just, because you can see it on a bodybuilding scale, you can see steroids make them like monsters, mass monsters. But I feel like every certain sport has their own kind of steroids.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know. I'm very curious about this. And I think, say for example, with tennis players, right? Mate, you can't tell me you're natural zipping up and down the court for fucking 4.5, 5 hours.
Boy, if you are, it's extremely impressive.
Say, for example, Roger Federer.
Yeah.
At 36, 37 years of age, 4.5 hours zipping up and down, up and down. Like, personally, I think doing that naturally is just not achievable. However, if it is, which I don't know, but if it is, fucking massive props
Look,
to
I
him,
think...
because I respect Roger Federer. I think he's one of the best athletes of all time.
I think if you are conditioned in a certain way from a very young age and you have genetic predispositions that are going to let you have explosive cardio 4 hours into a tennis match and you've been doing it your whole life and you've trained that whole way, it is possible for sure. Would you mind jumping on a couple of, what are those aerobic steroids called? They have steroids that specifically are designed, all the cyclists take it. Can you find out, Sian, for me, what drugs all the cyclists are taking? Steroids?
Is that the one Lance
Armstrong got caught with it. It's a specific steroid that increases your blood flow. And by doing that, it increases your oxygen intake. Yeah. And so, you know, I think if Roger Federer is looking at that as an option, he's going to go, okay, EPOs, thank you. 5 points to Sian. If I'm looking at possibly taking EPOs, I'm going to go, okay, well, I've got 10 million in the bank. I have a couple friends in the Drug Federation that test tennis players. Why not? Why not?
Yeah, why not? If it's going to improve my performance and it's going to give me a better competitive edge over the others.
Plus, you're probably looking at, you know, Djokovic, and you're like, he's got to be on something. That motherfucker. The way he moves up and down the court, I bet he's on something. That motherfucker. I bet he's taking EPOs right now as we speak. You know, there's a big problem with the cyclists is that EPOs, what they do is it increases your blood flow and it increases your heart rate. So with the cyclists, they would get impulsive desires to work out, even though it would be like 2 o'clock in the morning. So on the buses for a lot of these Tour de France competitions, they would be, you just have stationary bikes and 2 in the morning, they'd just have to cycle and they'd just have to push and they'd have to like cycle because there was just too much blood running up and down and they had to exert it and they had to train. They couldn't sleep unless they trained at like random times at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I hear that and go, fuck, give me some of that. That sounds crazy. I feel the urge to work out at 3 o'clock in the morning. So if you're a competitive athlete, of course you're going to be looking at those as options. And if you've got the resources of someone like Conor McGregor, you're going to say, okay, you know what? USADA, just leave me alone for like 2 years. I won't talk to anyone. I won't do anything. Just leave me alone. I'm going to go up a weight class and I'll come back and win the belt. And when you've made hundreds of millions of dollars at the company, I mean, you're going to have some friends.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, Dana's white favourite.
Allegedly, please UFC don't sue me.
Conor McGregor is one athlete I respect so much. It's funny that you mentioned Conor McGregor because just before I came, I was actually watching his documentary, Notorious.
Ah, yes.
I fucking love that documentary. I think that is one of the best documentaries of the 21st century. And it's funny because I've watched that documentary probably over 50, 60 times. The first couple of times I watched it, I could see Conor McGregor in myself, where he psychs himself up. He talks to himself, I'm the best, I'm the champ, I'm the this, and nobody better than me, you know. Like, I don't know exact same words that he says, but I see that and it resonates with me so much because he truly has to say these words into existence to believe in himself, you know, to create something out of himself. He has to truly believe it. And I could see it, right? And call him crazy, call him whatever, it's worked out for him. You know, he's a champion in fucking different divisions. But then, this is going a bit off topic, then the next couple of times I watched the documentary, I was watching his misso the whole time. And I think what she has, her role, is so much harder than what he has to do. Like countless of hours, she's sitting there watching him, staring, and, you know, she's with him along the whole entire ride. And it's like, wow, like that's fucking crazy. Like all the spotlight and all the headlines is on Conor. And you're pretty much like a bench warmer, but you're watching and you're aspired by this person and you motivate him. And behind closed doors, she's probably his biggest motivator.
Yeah.
She's the one that's telling him, Conor, you got to get up right now. Doesn't matter if you're injured. You know, you've got a legacy.
Well, it's hard, especially when you've hit the levels of success that he has. Because it's easy now when you don't have, you know, the fame or the notoriety or the respect in your industry that you're looking for to be motivated because there's something to achieve. But when you're in a position like Conor McGregor where you've got everything that you could possibly ask for,
it's way past motivation.
It's way past motivation. Yeah. It's discipline, it's legacy, and those are hard things to motivate, man. Like like being motivated by legacy is a very different kind of drive than being motivated by hunger. Because you know that even if I don't achieve the legacy that I'm looking for, I'm sleeping well tonight. I've got silk pajamas. I've got a nice roof over my head. I've got a hot wife right next to me, beautiful kids, good food.
But then you become complacent.
Exactly. So I think what we've seen in not just Conor, but we're going to use Conor as an example, right? Is that what we've seen in Conor is a level of complacency, and it translates in his fights.
But do you think he's complacent? Because I personally don't think so. I see that, yes, look, he's had some losses. All right, he's lost the last 3 fights.
I think it's more. I think it's 4.
4?
Yeah.
Something like that. But, you know, in his documentary, his end goal was he wants to grow rich and old and be fat and just enjoy his life. And he's got the whiskey company, which is doing amazing. Proper 12. It's killing the game at the moment. He's probably making more in the whiskey company than he ever made in his UFC career. So has he really fucked up big time even though he lost?
No, absolutely not. No. Look, if it depends how you measure success, right? Because if you measure success purely monetarily, then Conor McGregor is the greatest fighter that's ever lived.
Potentially one of them.
Monetarily speaking, he is. He's sold the most pay-per-views. He's the most famous. He's the most recognized. He's an international brand. You say McGregor, everyone knows.
Everyone knows.
We're talking about this guy in one way or another. It's international. He is.
Shut your mouth.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Who the fuck is that guy?
But if you...
That was horrible Conor McGregor impersonation, by the way. I cannot impersonate Conor McGregor.
Clip it.
Me out for
Clip it. Put it on repeat. That's the intro. Thank you.
Shut your mouth.
But my point is that if you look at it from a fighting legacy and you look at it from how MMA fans perceive him and how the UFC will remember him, he wants to make sure that he goes out with the absolute highest regard possible. He wants that championship belt again. He wants to go and prove that he's the greatest again. And he's not right now. He's for sure, for any man, he's accomplished amazing heats, but he is looking at the next level going, okay, I see Islam Makhachev with the belt. I want to take that away from him. And until he does that, he hasn't succeeded.
Exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely.
What level of success do you have to hit before you feel like you've made it?
I think if we're talking bodybuilding, personally, I think it'd have to be an IFBB pro card.
Right.
For sure, yeah. You know, I think obviously you want to hit the Olympia stage and potentially one day become Mr. Olympia. But I think if you're an IFBB pro, you're decorated as a professional bodybuilder. And being a professional bodybuilder comes with a lot of opportunity, you know. And I think for me, that's a level of success that I can say, yes, I'm a professional at what I do. And because I'm a professional at what I do, because I have this pro card, then I have to conduct myself like a professional and then gain the next step, you know? Because the next step is obviously compete in the Olympia, win Mr. Olympia, and not just win, but continue winning. And I think that's harder than being the underdog. I think winning and continuing to win is way harder than the second place trying to climb up to knock off the lion's head.
100%.
Because when you're second place or when you're third or whatever, you've got a goal. The goal is I need to get to first.
You're hungry.
You're hungry, man.
You're
starving
fucking
for it, bro.
hungry.
Yeah,
No one trained harder than, I forget his name. I feel horrible. But who came second place to Arnold like 3 times in a row?
Lou Ferrigno? No.
Yes.
Was it Lou?
Yeah, it was Lou.
Lou Ferrigno? Yeah.
Lou Ferrigno. No one trained harder than Lou. No one wanted it more than Lou.
Yeah.
He was just a man living in Arnold's generation.
Arnold fucked with his head.
Yeah.
Arnold was like, you ain't shit.
Oh, congratulations on second place. You guys did really well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the confidence that Arnold had. And I reckon Arnold did doubt himself. He probably looked at Lou and potentially Lou could have beaten Arnold. Lou had a fantastic physique.
Yes.
But he put in his head the doubt. And the doubt is what fucked Lou. Fucked him hard, bro.
Yeah.
Even though he had a better support system than Arnold did, it fucked
You could see it on stage, man. It translates. Lou was like, I have something to prove.
Arnold's just relaxed.
And Arnold's like,
I'm here, baby.
I'm Arnold.
Yeah, I'm numero uno, bro. That's the thing. I'm number one, baby. If you're number one, ain't nobody gonna fuck around with you.
That's
you know?
it.
So that's what I think. I think if you're number one, though, how do you stay consistent? That's the real challenge.
That's the challenge.
When you're first place, fucking so hard to stay there because who is your competition? You.
Yeah.
But when you take a step back, you realize in this sport, it's always you versus you.
Exactly.
All the time, bro. You're trying to beat yourself. So what's best for you is to stop looking at everyone around you and to start doing you. And if you're an inch better than what you were last year, then fuck, you're a fucking champion, bro. You're the fucking man.
IFBB Pro, that's the level of success that you have to beat.
To compete in the Olympia stage, yes.
Yes, but like for yourself.
For me personally, that's what I want.
Okay.
Correct.
Was there any pushback, was there any resistance that you received from your family once you've set this goal and you fully committed to it? Including quitting your full-time job?
I can't lie. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think, look, my mum always supported me in whatever I do. And my mum always believes in me, right? But then, she thought it was just a hobby. Hey, he just wants to try something for a bit. Because she's seen me doing prep and working full, like this time around, I was working full time and prepping for a show. So it was a different kind of struggle as opposed to the last year where it was lockdown. I had all the time in the world, but I was isolated. So yeah, there was a little bit of backlash. But I said to my mum, like, I have a purpose, I have a goal, and my goal is bigger than this full-time job, right? And because they've come to this country, and I don't blame them because they came to this country, to start a family, to get a good job, to have kids, like that's what they believe in, I can't blame that because it's a massive jump to go from another country, obviously a non-English speaking country to an English speaking country and trying to establish yourself. But now I have the opportunity to dare, to dream, to believe. And if I can see that, and if I can see my purpose, my hadaf, then I'm not going to stop for no one, not even my parents.
And you know what's so interesting about that mindset is that that's the exact same mindset that your parents would have had to get over here to Australia in the first place.
Correct. Because they could see the hadaf. They could see that there's a better future for them as opposed to in their country where it was third world country, dog eat dog world, like everyone's fucking trying to scrape the barrel to make some coin, so they can see it and nothing was going to stop them from pursuing their dream to come to Australia and establish a family. But now I'm here and I'm established here in this country and I'm born here, right? Now I have a different kind of dream and my dream is, man, I want to create a legacy now. Yeah. Because they might not believe in what I believe in right now, but in a couple of years, hopefully, when I do make it into the spotlight and I do work hard and then I can retire my mom, retire my family, I can set up my kids, I can be a good influence for the younger generations, I can make some sort of noise in a positive impact, a positive aspect, then it's all going to be worth it at the end of the day. But it's scary because you don't know when that's going to happen. It's scary. But you got to trust that you got to do the little things right.
Well, the way I break it down for myself is, Sienna, we're still rolling here. Everything's good. The way I break it down for myself is there are all these variables, all these things that could possibly go wrong, but all I can control at the end of the day is a set amount of things, set amount of objectives. I know in your case, for example, I know I can eat right, I can train hard, I can get enough rest, and I can maintain good relationships with the people around me.
I have to get my mind right first and foremost, bro.
Yes.
Have to. Because if you don't get your mind right, if you don't get your internal environment right, well, then you're going to allow the external environment to fuck with you.
Exactly.
And that's when you start doubting yourself. You probably felt the same thing when you were starting this podcast. Internally, you thought, bruh, I can do this. But then you started hearing a lot of noise from outside. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, this, And then you start questioning yourself. So I think before you can get all the other objectives right, you've got to get your mind right first. You can't let anything fucking fuck with your mind, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think focusing in and honing on the things that you can just control and do and exert, influence over, then that's all you can do, right? I mean, touch wood, but Russia could send nukes tomorrow, and that's it. No one gives a shit about your. No one gives a shit about your.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No one gives a fuck about my podcast if nukes hit. No one cares about your bodybuilding career if nukes hit. So you've just got to do everything that you can and tick every box that you physically can in order to hit success. One last question before you go.
Let's go.
If you looked at the 10-year-old version of yourself and could have a face-to-face conversation with that kid, what advice would you give him?
I'll tell him, mate, don't be scared. Jump when it's scary. Jump in the deep end and fucking choke, bro. Because that's the only way you're going to learn. Because when I was 10 years old, I was fucking scared, bro. I was a little kid. I had no direction in my life. So if I could have this conversation with my 10-year-old self, I'll tell him, hey, jump, try, see, look, attain knowledge, learn. Do whatever you want to do. Do what your heart desires. But when you do something, do it properly and commit to it 100%. I think that's probably crazy to tell a 10-year-old that, but hey, but if you said, but I mean, it's those values that, doing those little things right is what gets you to the bigger goal, and if you didn't do those little things right and you don't believe in yourself, well, you've got no purpose.
Anthony Isaac, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me today, man. You've got an exceptional story. I love the way you turned yourself around. You were able to hit one of the lowest lows and turn that into the fuel to hit the next level. And I wish you nothing but the most amount of success.
Thank you very much. And I wish you nothing but the success for this podcast. It is the fastest growing podcast in Australia. And this man, he knows what he's doing. So better jump on his podcast.
That's absolutely right, guys. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure to do so already. Again, Anthony, I can't thank you enough. You've been awesome, bro. And we will see you soon.